And so we were saying, unlike us founders, VCകൾക്ക് ഒരു പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട് 6 മണി കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ മൂഡ് മാറും. So we thought of keeping it lightweight, right? Not too much of, rather than being like very serious, we'll keep it lightweight because 6 മണി കഴിഞ്ഞല്ലോ, right? So yeah, so thanks for having this, KSM. It's amazing to have Mallu VCs, and it was fun to actually talk about this because in the group we were discussing about what should be the name of this panel, and the suggestions were like, what, Vera level VC, and Manavalan and Sons, what? So
yeah, so I am a Malayali, so I want to first apologize to people who might not fully get this, but the idea was to also do a little bit of this in Malayalam. So ഞങ്ങൾ പാനലിൻ്റെ പേര് നോക്കിയപ്പം വേറെ ലെവൽ VC ഞങ്ങൾ സജസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തു. I clearly that didn't go through. Some of the names were even more absurd. Manavalan Sons reference was to say that ഞങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലുള്ളതും നിങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലില്ലാത്തതും എന്താണ് ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻറ്റ്സ്, പക്ഷെ നിങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലുള്ളതും ഞങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലില്ലാത്തതും എന്താണ് ഐഡിയാസ്. So yeah, the naming obviously went to the extreme, some of them which I'm not going deep into, but the idea is to like sort of Jofin panel Malayalam cheyanananu enikku aagraham, and the rest of it obviously, you know, people who don't understand Malayalam, obviously Jay is here, you know, he will cover in English.
All right, Sherry. So let's get started. Let's have some fun. Let's keep it light. We'll obviously edakku chodingal chodikam. If anyone has any question, just raise your hand and we can take it in. So hey, great to have you. I'll quickly do an introduction. Obviously, you have the names and pictures out there. Joslin is VP at PeerCapital. Jay, partner at Beyond Next Ventures. We have Sulesh, who is VP at Ideaspring Capital. So we have Karthikeyan, who is a partner at Yali Ventures. So നമ്മൾ ഒരുപാട് ഫോമൽ ഇൻട്രഡക്ഷൻ ചെയ്യാതെ I thought we'd just get started with ഒരു കാര്യം, which is what's the most Mallu thing about you? What defines you as a Malayali? Let's get started from there.
Malayali.
I'll let Jay. Want me to? I'll break the ice. So the most Mallu thing, I used to look like this. 3 മാസം മുമ്പേ, and then most Malayalis have a mustache, so I said, okay, why not grow a really big one? So that's the most Mallu thing about me.
No, difficult, right? I mean, I'm not നാട്ടിൽ കൂടെ താമസിച്ചിട്ടില്ല, പക്ഷേ എനിക്ക് മലയാളം 10th വരെ ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ കുമാരനാശാൻ അതെല്ലാം വളർത്തോളം അതൊക്കെ അറിയാം, പക്ഷേ നാട്ടിൽ താമസിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. So I think that's the most Mallu thing. I can read and write and probably connect more with Kerala than I didn't physically stay here, so that connect is there.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
The most Malayali thing about me is apparently my face, because I've been recognized in Tokyo Tower in Tokyo. I've been recognized in Bali. I've been recognized in the US. I've been recognized everywhere in the world. ആരെങ്കിലും വന്ന് തോള് തട്ടിയിട്ട് ബൈ നിങ്ങൾ മലയാളി അല്ലേ, that is something I'm very happy about. Sometimes I'm surprised. ഇവിടെ അങ്ങനെ എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്ന് ചോദിക്കാൻ തോന്നും, but this is I mean, I'm happy about it. Let's say that.
ഞാൻ നാട്ടിൽ പഠിച്ച് നാട്ടിൽ വളർന്ന് അങ്ങനെ ഫുൾ ഞാൻ മലയാളിയാണ്. സോ വാട്ട്സ് ദ മോസ്റ്റ് Mallu thing? Everything about me is like, you know, is Malayali. Every second conversation that I would bring up, if there's a Malayali around, I will bring up a dialogue from movies. ഇന്ന് വരെ പോളിലേക്ക് യശോദ എന്ന് വിളിക്കാൻ എനിക്ക് ചാടാൻ പറ്റാറില്ല. I don't know, again, like, you know, how many of you will get the reference? So I'm that Mallu. It's very hard to separate the Malayali from me, actually.
All right, so just wanted to add a quick context about this as well, right? So Joslin is organizing this community of Mallu VCs called 2255, which is
another
okay.
Some of you got the reference.
Yeah, Mohalal fans kayidje.
Yeah.
How do you lay Mohalal fans? Mohalal fans kayidju. So yeah, so there's this community of Mallus who are in VC. Across the globe, which is right now a WhatsApp group which Joslin is organizing, which is the reason why this panel is happening as well. And more than having that WhatsApp group, that can be a huge advantage to the ecosystem here one day. And kudos to Joslin for organizing all that.
Absolutely, and thanks, Jofin. I think I've seen the power of communities, and then how that would translate into like, magnanimous action that's getting created, just because you belong to a certain group or tribe. I've seen it like, playing out in beautiful ways. And then I'll tell a little bit of origin story of 2255 also. Njan VC ആയിട്ട് ഒരു 6-7 years that I've gotten into institutional investment. And every time, and I'm based in Bangalore, so every time I'm around and I'm talking to my non-Malayali VC friends, they would say that, okay, assume ഞങ്ങൾ ഈ സെഷൻ ചെയ്യാൻ വിളിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്, കൊച്ചിയിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് നാളെ സെഷൻ ഉണ്ട്, ഇതൊക്കെയുണ്ട്. And then I felt that I'm far away from what's happening in Kerala. And I always wanted to talk to Malayali founders, do whatever, for no reason, right? Because you always feel a sort of belonging to this place for just because you're from here. And I always thought that why are they not reaching out? Is it because they don't know that we exist as a bunch of Malayalis? So that's when the quest started, to ask who else is out there. And then now we have about 35 odd folks in our group that have identified. I'm pretty sure there are more people. The idea is to sort of open this channel out where founders, investors, capital allocators, anyone from Kerala who is in that larger ecosystem to reach out and benefit, and have that dialogue, without too much agenda or whatever that is. So yeah, there's more to it, but that's the real purpose with which started. And I hope we can deliver, in larger capacity.
Awesome. 35 people is a big number, right? So we never knew that so many people, and I'm pretty sure every founder in this room, it would be a surprise to know that there are so many people in VC who are Malayalis. So this is great. So let's get to a few questions, right?
Yep.
So if you could, so first thing is, again, as a fellow Malayali VC, right? So when you get approached for an investment, or when you get pitched for an investment by a Malayali founder, what's the first thought in your mind? What's the first thing that comes in your mind? Maybe Joslin, if you could start.
So I think I've met, let's say, ratio-wise, probably me meeting a Malayali founder is a little lesser compared to me meeting any other founder. But plus and minuses, or good things, lots of good things, of course. When I talk to a Malayali founder, namakku pettannu, I think there is a lot of trust and transparency that obviously gets built in the initial 5 minutes itself. And that sort of helps me understand for the rest of the pitch, what are they saying, what are they trying to communicate to me, what should I heavily underwrite here, because we invest in the pre-seed to pre-seed stages when we invest in, so that's very raw founder conversations is what we are mostly having. I've always found a lot of comfort in meeting Malayali founders. I think the dissection of it is much easier for me. And on the other side, I feel that because when you're in Bangalore, we are in the thickness of that ecosystem. Ottiri feedback loops are very heavy. These founders are constantly in the presence of VCs and other founders. And I feel that nammade naattilulla, barring a 5% founders, the majority of founders, they're very far away from it. Avarku adinte realities we'll decode it, hopefully, how do we look at investments, what are we thinking when we meet founders, we'll try and decode. But I feel that avar korchu far away aanu. It probably is because they're not having as many dialogues with other founders, mostly. I wouldn't say other VCs. But they're probably not having enough conversation with other founders, and that I've seen a lot of lag in terms of how would it translate to an investment. And Jofin, you've raised capital a bunch of times, but I think you're in the blessed 5% category. But the remaining 95% founders, I've tried to help founders in maximum ways possible. Some of these things come very naturally. Hey, talk to this person specifically, because namakare evideyana thesis alignment varunathu, evideyana sectoral alignment varunathu. Appo chela Malayali founders ne kanumba I felt that that has been a little far away. I don't know if this was the intent of your question, but I'm just touching one angle. I'm pretty sure others have more fun things to talk about.
Please.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything fun to admit, but generally I think venture capitalists tend to look at things through the lens of can I make money, right? So our lens into through, if you look at opportunities, I don't think the Malayalam angle shows up or shows down. But that being said, we are a Japanese venture capital fund. And I do think there are lots of similarities between Malayalis and the Japanese, right? Very industrious civilization. You're blessed with the great healthcare index, fabulous air quality of life, optimization for certain things in life that may not necessarily mean work 60 hours a week, things like that, right? I think the good things about Malayali founders that I come with my own bias are usually very industrious. Number two, generally speaking, governance is not an issue. Maybe quick show of hands, how many Malayali founders here? How many non-Malayali founders here? Okay, I'm going to take a dump on the non-Malayali founders right now because I won't get into trouble. There's only one of you and I know you. Right? I think there's a sense of governance, right? When you look at it through the lens of an investor coming from the outside, there's a general perception that governance is missing in India. I think at least with my own bias, I think Malayalis generally tend to score high when it comes to governance, integrity, ethics, principles, working on professionalism, etc. I think those are all the positives, right? I think the negatives, I wouldn't call it negatives, but I think the challenges being a Malayali is, oh, sorry, I want to add one more thing, which is the network effects. I think you touched upon it. Regardless of a Malayali being a founder or not, Malayalis are incredibly networked, like fabulously networked, right, across the world. So we do get a lot of deal flow from Malayalis inorganically, even if they're not founders. I think the only challenge is a fairly nuanced one where the inability to step out of their own comfort zone, right, and tend to look and act and think a little more global is the one thing that I would preach to the audience if you ask me, hey, what can you do?
Got it. That's amazing. So I'd love to jump onto Karthikeyan here, right? So because on one specific point that you started your answer with, which is something being a VC opportunity. And I'm sure we were talking about this earlier. So along with your answer on what do you feel about Malayali founders, I'd love to also touch upon that factor on what is a fundable opportunity for you. Okay. And mostly from Kerala when we build, is there anything missing in terms of knowledge about what is a fundable opportunity?
All right. So I focus specifically on DeepTech. Right. So within DeepTech, I look at fabless semiconductor and robotics. Honestly, I don't see Malayali founders any different from any other founders. I've invested in one company with a Malayali CEO. He wasn't from Kerala. I mean, he was from Kerala, but he lives in Bangalore. We're working on a deal with a Malayali CEO. I don't know if that will go through, you know how it is. But I wish there were more. I don't know why. I don't see more Malayali founders pitching to me. But yeah, what is a fundable VC opportunity, right? So you probably heard a lot of horror stories about VCs. So we probably want to kind of reset some of that and tell you what is a fundable VC opportunity. Not every good business is a VC opportunity. That's important to know. There are excellent businesses that can be angel funded and then transition into what is called a lifestyle business. It's limited. So what is a VC opportunity? A VC opportunity is a good business that can scale tremendously if it works. A VC will take risks. A VC is not looking for certainty. We work on something called a power law, which is I'm not looking at the average opportunity. I'm looking at the 20-30% of my opportunities which are going to be sixes. Right? I want 10x or greater. If you win, are you going to give me 10, 20, 100x? If you cannot deliver that, as your business doesn't deliver that, that is not a VC opportunity, unfortunately. That could be an angel opportunity. That could be a raising money some other way opportunity. So the fundamental thing about a VC opportunity is if it wins, how much can it scale? Simple.
Got it. And just painting a picture of I've been a founder from Kerala, building for a long period of time, and obviously what we as founders, and I'm probably talking for many people in this room, is we are in a very small ecosystem. We are building from here. We do not see the hustle and buzz of an ecosystem like Bangalore every single day, which can keep us very far away from what is really happening there. And this I've seen multiple times. Whenever I land in Bangalore, I have a conversation, I have a bunch of conversations, etc. This actually says. Now, from that perspective, from Sulesh, from your side, along with your answer about what do you what's your general feeling when a Malayali founder pitches to you? I'd also love to touch upon, is there any fundamental personality trait that you see in Malayali founders, or for that matter, founders from like tier 2, tier 3 ecosystems, which you can tell very quickly when those people pitch to you?
No, this is interesting actually, right? And what Karthikeyan mentioned, the scale. And to be really frank, I have not come across this difference. But I had a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and he came to Huddle last year. And I asked him, how was it? How are the startups you have met, right? He said, they're all great, but they're not thinking scale. And I was a little bit surprised, because I've not come across that situation, at least when I spoke to Malayali founders. And one of the reasons, I mean, like how you mentioned, right? Maybe the scale is to do with how Bangalore thinks or how Delhi thinks. It's a lot to do with, okay, we're building it for the best in the world globally, and we're competing against the best. I'm sure even the Kerala founders do that, and that's what they aspire for. But maybe dialogues between the founders here, founders in Bangalore, like an entity like a KSUM, right? They can definitely play a big role in that. Like idea exchanges, maybe hackathons with founders building out of AI. For example, AI is a hot topic right now. And a lot of really good founders are building in Bangalore. I mean, the Chennai ecosystem was primarily for SaaS, but for AI, what was said and done, it's Bangalore. A lot of the founders from here maybe could spend time there. And then vice versa as well, right? I mean, it's not like Kerala doesn't have the best founders. I think there are sectors where Kerala also really focuses really well on. But in areas of maybe DeepTech and AI, I think there could be a really good exchange between ideas, both in Bangalore or Chennai with the Kerala ecosystem here. And another thing I want to add to that is, unfortunate or fortunate, Bangalore has the IISc, Chennai Madras has the IIT. We need that academic institution here as well, right? And I know IIT Palakkad is coming through, IIST, Indian Institute of Science is here. So a lot of research is coming out through those institutions as well, because we are a deep tech investor, and we are very entrenched with institutions and research coming out of the institutions. I know there is an accelerator in IIST, and there are good startups coming from there. But maybe that's something also which can make a big difference for Kerala founders.
Got it. It's a very interesting point, right? So the scale and ambition of founders might actually seem very different when you're from a tier 1 ecosystem, and every day you're hearing about these stories, and every day you're actually seeing people who are raising big amounts of money and scaling really fast, etc. I mean, from any of you, the other three, the point that Sulesh mentioned about scale and ambition, if you have any comments to add about how that mindset can be a differentiator, and how founders right here in the room can develop that mindset.
I probably will give an example. So as a founder, and I've been a founder multiple times, right? So I can relate to people who are hustling and struggling. I think the scale part is very, very relevant. When you look at the idea of building a company, there is some beauty in trying to build a company from day zero that can go global. The amount of time it takes for you to become valued at $1 billion is roughly about 8 years. It's roughly 6 rounds, right? That's the average. So if that's the playbook, and if you're going to play that same playbook, you need to be doing a Series A in about a year, which means you need to be doing a seed round, if at all you want to raise money. I think Karthikeyan made a great point that you don't always need to be venture scalable. It's actually easy to build a $10 million business, if you ask me, and the founder can take home $400K without raising any venture capital. But if you do want to take venture capital, that's the playbook, right? 8 years, roughly 6 to 8 rounds, a seed round in about 8 months. And therefore, you got to think big from day one. Right, to figure out what does it take to have product market fit, not just in the local ecosystem. And today, you can actually do all of that. The example I wanted to give you is a portfolio company of ours called EF Polymer. This is a company that came out of Rajasthan. They built something called super absorbent polymer. This company, we flipped it to Okinawa. Now they sit in Japan. And there is no reason that company could not have come from Thrissur. So I don't think the challenge is in the ecosystem that you live in. The challenge lies in your own mindset and ability to think really big. You've already, the folks who had their hands up, you've already decided to become an entrepreneur, which means you're a very irrational individual, right? Otherwise you'd be working somewhere. The minute you decided to become irrational, you should be thinking massive from day one. You could counter-argue and say, well, you don't write a check, Mr. VC, right? And the answer to that is exactly what Karthikeyan said. You don't need to raise money all the time.
I think all of you made excellent points, but just to, I mean, I agree again that, it might not be VC that is the answer to everything. Like, and I don't know how VC suddenly got all so glamorous and everybody is after VC. In fact, I was just talking to Felix, I don't know if he's here, we were talking about what is that alternate asset class would look like, where you can fund companies that might not really reach that mega scale, but where we can enable options of like, a payback, a buyback, or whatever that is, so maybe there is, within the regulatory limits, maybe some alternative, funding opportunities that will emerge in the market, and I hope it does, But to the initial point that I'll come back to scale, but to build the money-making business, I love money-making businesses. So from the fund, one of our theses, I mean, we have two major theses. One is to invest in applied AI. So, by the name itself, it's massive scale, right? And the other is tech-enabled consumption, as we believe that, from the GDP stack, once we get to a 1.5 trillion, like, the GDP mark, what would be the proportion of digital tech enablers that will enable that much value in the market is something that the other theses that we have. For us, that is translated to a lot of B2B marketplace businesses in India. So these are very India businesses, the market is here, but there's so much depth in some of these markets, and I personally feel that it's easier as an investor to underwrite some of these opportunities when you balance it out with applied AI, because we don't know where some of those investments are going, frankly speaking. But some of these B2B investments, we know that, like, itrayum returns varum, itrayum companies created aayittundu, like, we had great IPOs in our market. So, that's comfortable opportunities. In fact, on that money-making side, all of us have been founders. Like, enda chala founder ideas are very, non-tech enabled ideas. Ivada nammada naattil oru physiotherapy. I know that physiotherapy is like a massive opportunity. VC fundable aanu choicha, it's actually not, like, the scalability challenges under the capital challenges under, but massive money unlock opportunities are. And to the extreme that one of the founders who's, I don't know if he's in the room, like, like Chandanamaram vittale, like, nalla kaashu undavunna oru opportunity aanu. But there is actually massive money. Yeah, Chitan is here. There is money making opportunity. So that's on the on one side. On the other side, when we talk about scale, and I think I can say that with, to tell you guys the other side in terms of how do we think about it, because like I said, നമ്മൾ early stage invest the pre-seed to seed, and how much ever we say that നമ്മൾ founders ഞാൻ underwrite ചെയ്യുന്നെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ massively market underwrite ചെയ്യും. We're actually underwriting the market when we come in at that early, pre-product, pre-revenue, എല്ലാം market underwriting ആണ്, because it's not our money that we can throw away saying that, like, hey, ഈ founder നിഷ്ടായി ആകാശം കൊടുത്തേക്കാം. We're answerable to, like, our limited partners, our money givers. So that massive market underwriting, like, might look like we're looking at maybe not necessarily, let's say, if it's an established category, it might not be a $1 billion market. Adu nammal chelappam underwrite cheyan namukku difficult aayirikkum. And it's not coming from us, because, it's coming from the people who write checks after us. Think of us, right now, we are pre-seed investors. Ini series A investors varanam, series B varanam, C varanam, D varanam. Appoyana namakku exit kitta. അപ്പോൾ അവർ വരുമ്പം അവരിപ്പോൾ $1 billion മാർക്കറ്റൊക്കെയാണ് കാണുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അവർ പറയും, ലൈക്ക്, ഇത് ഇൻവെസ്റ്റബിൾ ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി അല്ല, ആൻഡ് വി ആർ സ്റ്റക്ക് വിത്ത് ദർ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ്. ആൻഡ് ദ എനിമി ഓഫ് a great investment is a good investment, because you are stuck with, let's say you're creating like 20-30 portfolio companies. You're stuck with a lot of good investments which are okay, like, they're doing well, they have a working product, revenues varunundu, but you don't have your moonshots, which is where, like Karthikeyan mentioned, that's where we make money. So when we invest, if it is not a massive opportunity, then that's not VC then we are doing private equity business, if you are into invest in, steady returns ഒക്കെ വരുന്നുണ്ടെന്ന്. So then if you are that kind of a business, then you need to look for alternate asset classes, and it's not VC. So I just thought, when you think of scale, if it's a double-digit billion-dollar market, go for it. Unless it's an emerging category, like, ഞാൻ $1 billion marketലും invest ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് very recently, which is a data privacy company. It's a very emerging opportunity in India. അതൊക്കെ emerge ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ്, which is, we have the liberty to take such moonshot, when markets get created. So there is no, right answer, this or that. But I think, these are some of the tips that you can keep in mind when you're building.
Awesome. I think, yeah.
So, നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ money, scale എന്നൊക്കെ കുറേ പറഞ്ഞു. See, I am basically a techie. I have been a techie all my life. I wanted to be a techie. Until 2-3 years ago, I was a startup operator. I was a GCC executive. One of the earliest lessons that I was taught in a semiconductor major, right? One of the people that I looked up to, kind of mentor, he had a stack of patents this thick. That's how many patents he had, right? But then he asked me, when you build a new product, right, and this holds for everybody, whether it's a VC, whether it's a startup, whether it's inside a large corporation, when you build a new product, what do you think first? അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, how interesting is it to design? So he says, no. The first thing you think of is, can I sell it? Right? Remember, this is not a marketing guy. This is not an MBA. This is one of the engineers that I looked up to as the most number of patents. He says, the first thing that makes a product successful is, can I sell it? And then you think of, can I make it? Can I manufacture it? Can I design it? The first thing is always, can I sell it? So one thing I'd encourage all startup founders is think of how am I going to sell it, right? And Joslin rightly mentioned, what's your market? What's your TAM? What's your total available market? How many billions is it, right? That's the first thing we underwrite. Second thing is, what is your served market, right? And then third is, how much are you going to get out of it? That's your SOM, right? Your share of the market. The number one mistake people make is, this is my TAM, 5 billion. This is my SAM, 1 billion. And if I get 1% of it, I will be at 10 million, right? So maybe at seed, if I really like the market and if I really like the founders, that is a good enough story. But 90% of the time, that is not a good enough story. I need to know how you're going to get to 1% of the market, right? What does it take to sell in that market? If you have a co-founder who really understands that, I think that will get you a lot of points.
Got it. Yep, please.
That's a great point. I'll give you my view, not as a VC, but as a next founder, right? There are two types of entrepreneurs who come and pitch to VCs. Founder A comes and says exactly what you said. 5 billion time, 10% of that, I have 500 million, and then 10% of that, 50 million is what I'm going to go after. That's my SOM. And I need your money to get to that. That's founder A. Founder B comes and says, I need 500K. With 500K, I'm going to hire a sales team of 3 people who will do inside sales. Of the 3 people who do inside sales, one person is going to have 50 leads qualified. Of the 50 qualified leads, 10% are going to actually do pilots. So of the 5 of them, 1% will pay me, right? So on an annual basis, I have 1 pilot. That's the founder you want to go after. So as a founder, you have to start thinking bottom up. You can't do top down. If you want to do top down, you should be at McKinsey. I have nothing against McKinsey, but that's a general statement. Anybody here from McKinsey? But I think that's the idea, right? You have to be an operator. You really have to think from the ground up. That's one advice I'd like to give you as an ex-founder.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, I mean, in my short stint as a VC, TAM, SAM, SOM was obviously the most erroneous pitch deck, erroneous slide on a pitch deck, and often the most skipped one. And if you really want to know that, you do your own research and not go for that TAM, SAM, SOM number in billions, right? So, but then,
Sorry, I know that we keep interrupting, because I don't know what kind of questions are coming, but I have one more thing, because we are talking about how founders talk to VCs, that's one aspect, but one other additional point that I want to touch upon is to, again, show the other side of VCs is to really, I don't know how many people agree with this, but talk to us like how you're talking to our customers, which is some of these things, ചില സമയത്തൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഭയങ്കര complicated ആയിട്ടുള്ള, and complicated because, not any one individual can't be an expert in everything. So we'll obviously come across things in a way we don't know some of these things. And then they get lost in the narrative, in founders, they were saying that, we're building in AI and SaaS, we're building in this and that, it's helpful to understand. But if founders talk to us, how you would pitch to a customer that someone who wants to buy a product, that goes back to Jay's point in terms of hey, break it down in terms of how is that translating into, if you do this, that translates to so much revenue, that always miraculously unlocks, we understand that business with a lot more clarity. An ideal founder would be someone who will do both. Tell me the time and tell me this also, because we expect a miracle, of course, അത് ഒരിക്കലും അങ്ങനെ പെർഫെക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് സംഭവിക്കാറില്ല. കിട്ടുവാണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യും. Yeah.
If it's not one person who can tell me how awesome the product is and exactly how you're going to sell it, multiple people, right? That's why you need a founding team.
Okay. I agree.
Absolutely. So a big takeaway from there is absolutely that we need to get out of the small town vibes in terms of our ambition and dreams, and really dream bigger. To be a VC fundable company, of course, there are other ways to build companies as well, but then that dream big ambitions is fundamental, and that is something that we should, as Jay said, it's a mindset. We should build up that mindset, right? So that's great. I'll probably take a small pause from this topic, and since three of us are DeepTech investors, I want to just touch upon that, because I know that KSUM has a huge focus on DeepTech. And there's a lot of programs happening around DeepTech, and probably some of you are DeepTech founders as well. But what really is DeepTech? I keep hearing different answers to what it is. So what is your definition of DeepTech, and what kind of companies do you look for?
Yeah, the second one is easy, so I'll answer that. Right? What kind of company? So we look at three themes. What we call healthy people, happy planet, and digital infrastructure. So everything to do with the deep physics and chemistry of the betterment of the environment, and therefore happy planet. Everything in the intersection of biology and chemistry for the betterment of people, and therein healthy people. And then the third one is any piece of infrastructure that can completely disrupt a value chain. So it could be semiconductors, could be applied AI, etc. Those are the three. As far as the definition of deep tech is concerned, my personal definition, this is not the Beyond Next Ventures definition. I have my colleague Sanasan sitting here. So my personal definition is, if you struggle to explain technology in less than 5 minutes to a grandmother, then it's deep tech. So that's my definition.
Yeah, I think that's tough to beat that one. But no, look, we invest in IP-led businesses, right? And I had a discussion just some time back. Somebody told me, look, we're building an AI and ad tech. What IP do you look in that, right? So it's not the same. It's not one metric for all startups. It's how do you differentiate between the best in the world? When you're building, for us, especially in deep tech, when you're building it, we don't want a scenario where, okay, you're there, but we are different maybe because of the cost, or we're different maybe because of the pricing or the model. You should be different because it's the best tech out there in the world. So that's what we look at. Otherwise, again, it's very easy. I mean, it's three things we look at, right? Primarily the founder, the market, and how unique the tech is. So I think those are three factors. As Ideaspring, we look at sectors like life sciences. We have done investments in drone hardware. We have done advanced manufacturing as well. But deep tech, yeah, it's very vast, man. I mean, it's basically IP-led investment for us.
DeepTech, Agadhamaya Sangetika Vidya. It's a little more than that, right? So it's how do you let's give you an example. You have a pitch deck. You're walking around with a pitch deck on a USB card, right? Somebody picks up that card. Somebody picks up your thumb drive, puts it in his laptop, sees your pitch deck. Can he or she replicate your startup? Why not? What is it that you know that somebody else does not? Who asked this question? Peter Thiel asked this question. What is it that you know that somebody else doesn't? If that is IP, if that is patentable, if that is the definition of a deep tech startup, right? If what makes you different from somebody else, what makes it difficult for somebody to take your pitch deck and replicate that startup? Could be many things. It could be something, just some understanding of a business model. Then it's not deep tech. If that is the reason why somebody cannot copy your startup, then that's a business model startup, which is perfectly good business. A lot of people invest in it. If it scales, it's a VC fundable startup. What is a deep tech startup is if what makes it impossible for somebody to copy is some bit of IP that you own or you have in your head. Ask that yourself. I guess that will tell you whether you're a deep tech startup or not.
All right, awesome. So everyone has, in fact, Joslin said in the beginning, and all three of them have said what is their investment thesis. So anyone in this group thinks that your startup fits one of their funds? Quick show of hands. Right? Yeah. So, of course, we are...
Vendor.
Yeah,
but,
so
but that fits into the deep tech thesis or the non-deep tech thesis?
Deep tech.
Oh, okay.
Deep tech, yeah. So, That's your deal flow. So, of course, we're not going to pitch because we don't have time. But on that note, right, so, of course, the first lesson of how to approach a VC is know which VC to approach.
Yeah.
Of course, now you know who should be approaching these three gentlemen and who shouldn't, and who should be approaching Joslin and who shouldn't. But I want to touch upon that specific topic, and specifically on from a Malayali founder's perspective, right? So we are building from this place where we are away from the hustle and bustle of the core startup piece. And from here, when we approach you as a VC, how should we do it? And do you have suggestions on, hey, if you do this, I'll notice. If there is any interesting stories, lessons, anything that works for you, anything that doesn't work for you, that'd be amazing. So the more tactical you can get to, the better. It's for everyone of us to understand how to do it.
I mean, ഞാൻ എല്ലാം notice ചെയ്യും. Like, there is nothing that I would miss. Like, I'd obviously be seeing my LinkedIn DMs are open, my email is open, but obviously the crux is to get really creative with it, and I can't decode, like, I mean, what does that look like? That is to each individual, it's different. But ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഫൗണ്ടർ ചോദിക്കുമായിരുന്നു, ലൈക്ക് ഇത്രയും മെസ്സേജസ് കിട്ടുമ്പോൾ എവിടെ നിന്നാ സമയം, ലൈക്ക് ഇതൊക്കെ വായിക്കാനായിട്ട്. I don't know, എനിക്ക് സമയമുണ്ട്, like, I don't know, I'm talking to a lot of founders, gives me the absolute energy. I mean, this job is for founders, it's not for VCs, like, that I'm doing this. So there is obviously, like, I'm approachable, reachable, but yeah, that the crux is to get really creative. I've responded to obviously very creative LinkedIn DMs, to emails, and the typical one, like, which everybody knows, a warm introduction is obviously, like, the most helpful, and which is why, to be honest, like, the 2255 community is for that. Like, that you have so many Malayali VCs, and if we can't invest, or, like, I can't personally invest, I've definitely, like, or founder choikayirunnu, like, a regret undo, like, invest cheyathana. I definitely have that. Maybe I don't have as much investment experience as some of you, but I definitely think that, like, what can I do for them? So I'll make a warm introduction for you, like, if I think that, like, this is relevant, and if it's not relevant, I'm more honest, and I think that's what you guys should leverage also. Where would you get that honest feedback? And I think I try and get to it, like, and it's a very thin line to walk through, like, how do you say that, like, hey, this is probably not it, like, without offending someone. Like, we are all human beings, we all think that, a no is, like, really bad, take it really very, really serious. But I don't know where I heard it, like, you just need one yes, like, to get to that, like, it's so we shouldn't take it so much personally if one VC says no. And ചില founders പറയുന്നത് കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്, VC റെസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല എന്താണെന്ന് അറിയത്തില്ല. Like, I'm like, no, don't bother too much, like, because VCs are also chasing. We are actually chasing, really good founders. That's why I said, like, we don't miss a deal. നമ്മുടെ ഫണ്ടിൽ ഭയങ്കര സീരിയസ് ആയിട്ട് എടുക്കുന്ന ഒരു മെട്രിക് ആണ്, ലൈക്ക്, മാർക്കറ്റിൽ എന്തൊക്കെ ഡീൽ നടന്നു, നമ്മളത് കണ്ടോ ഇല്ലയോ, എന്തുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്തില്ല, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള അനാലിസിസ് we do very, very seriously. So it is in my best interest to, like, to find you, to reach out to you. So don't think that, like, so we don't have enough interest to, like, to talk to you as much. But yeah, I'm still hitting on that point to, like, get really creative. Maybe Jofin, you have great answers in terms of, how you did that thing. He's a hustler, he's done it, like, multiple times, so I'd lean on to, your pointers too. But yeah, Jay, you will have some fun stories, like,
Yeah. I don't know if I have fun stories, but this may be a great moment to dispel this idea that, well, VCs are all assholes, right? Only some of us. Exactly. Yeah, only some of us. The rest of us are actually nice. And contrary to the villainous look, most of us are decent people, right? So please treat us with a little bit of empathy and humility. We are actually nice people. Some of us have actually built ventures. We've sat on the other side. So I think that's layer number one. Layer number two, the idea of using something unique to reach out to any of us, I think gets you an interesting foot in the door. Everything else is driven by meritocracy, right? And I'll give you an example. So before I joined Beyond Next Ventures, I used to run this organization called T-Hub. I was the first CEO of this thing called T-Hub. And I remember one of the guys who desperately wanted a role at T-Hub, he sent me a LinkedIn post in Malayalam, in English, but transcribed from Malayalam. He said, his mother sent him a note saying, Kandu padikada, oru Malayali kandilla avada poyittu he's built something, right? And this was literally when he was in bed at 10 in the morning. I won't tell you who he is, he's doing quite well in life now. But that got my attention. I actually interviewed the guy. We had a great interview and things went on, right? So that's, I think, point number two. The last thing is, as a founder, I think as a founder, you need to have 3 characteristics. And I think we do inherently look for those things subconsciously. One, you have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed with not your solution, but the problem. Right? Most tech, especially deep tech founders, are obsessed with the solution. Try to be obsessed with the problem, which means that you'll pivot again and again and again till you crack it. That's the first one. The second one is you have to be insanely optimistic. Right? If you are also in the same boat of, shit, are we going to make money? This is not going to be a happy marriage, right? One of us has to be extremely optimistic, and I'll tell you, we are banking on you. So bring a ridiculous amount of optimism. Point number 3 is you have to bring copious amounts of energy. This is, being a founder is outrageously difficult, right? You have to bring copious amounts of energy. There was somebody joking that there's not enough time in the day, which is true, which is why you have the night. So I would say those are the 3 things that we look for when we look at founders and try to embrace those 3 characteristics.
Yeah, great points. I mean, there's not much I would add in that. Just 2 things from my end, right? I mean, this is something which we do internally in our firm, right? So when I get a deal and I want to pitch it to my partner, the first thing he asks is, can you summarize that in a single line? What is this particular company doing? And that's actually very difficult. It's not easy. So when you are pitching it to somebody, again, we have all discussed this, right? We see thousands and thousands of decks, emails throughout the year. And that's part of our job. Agree, we have to look at all of them. And we'll try to look at all of them objectively. But if you could put that one line up front, this is what my startup does, this is the market we're looking at, and this is why we are different. I mean, I'm giving it the 3 things, but maybe in a very short, concise manner. Put that up front, and that at least attracts me, for sure. And it makes my job easier, right? There is a clarity from the founder's point of view. Otherwise, if you get so many decks, it's not easy. And the second thing is maybe something that comes out of this panel, right? Finally, you know what? Put it out there. I am a Malayali founder. We have VCs here now. You know the people here over here. Next time you send out a DM to any of us in LinkedIn or whatever, tell I'm a Malayali founder. I'll definitely look at it next time for sure a different lens and maybe look at more in depth into that particular deck for sure. So let's do that. I mean, let's put it out there, for the community. Yep.
Yeah, at the risk of repetition, I'll kind of say the same thing because that's that important. How many of you heard the phrase 1-minute elevator pitch? Right? So if you meet somebody in an elevator and you have 1 minute, can you summarize what you're doing? What is the market? Why is it a big market? What is the problem that you're solving in that market? Why are you the right person to solve that problem? If you can pitch that in 1 minute, right, you will have everybody's attention. And if you can, so if you're writing a long email, make that your opening paragraph. Make your opening paragraph your email, your message, whatever, that 1 minute elevator pitch. That is guaranteed to grab attention. And like Sulesh said, I am a Malayali founder. You will, at least 255 members will give you a second look, definitely. And we do not discriminate against Mammootty fans. We love Mammootty also.
All right. So while we are at it, and since all of us probably are ready to risk the reputation a bit, I have one more question to ask, and I'll ask this in Malayalam. Please be extremely honest about this, right? നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും കേൾക്കുന്നതാണ് FOMO is what raises money എന്നുള്ളത്. അപ്പം ശരിക്കും എന്താണ് നിങ്ങളുടെ FOMOയെ ഉണർത്തുന്നത്? What would invoke your FOMO?
ഇത് ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് സിലബസ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആണ്. ഇത് ഞാൻ അറിഞ്ഞില്ല. ഈ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ വരുന്നത് ഞാൻ അറിഞ്ഞില്ല. We fall right for FOMO, man. It happens. But what is FOMO, right? It's a fear of missing out. So what that means is that things have already started kicking in. People already funding it. That's what FOMO means. As someone else is doing something, then as VCs we are oh, what are we missing? Which means you're not ahead of them. You're basically saying that oh, we also want to take a bet on it. For VCs, the real thing there is that you've already missed the bus a little bit. Because you didn't see that. You didn't see that coming.
Let's keep it simple, Joslin. What statements in an email from a founder would make you fear? Or would invoke your fear of missing out?
I have to be really honest, Jofin, then. I don't have it. I don't have that. I mean, we've seen, and I also invest in consumer tech. And in consumer tech, with AI, we've seen lots of great companies, outrageous ideas that are copied from the Valley that is getting funded in India. And then, one of the examples is, let's say, you all might have heard of it, the companion space. There's great companies as in, multi, I think, sub $100 million revenue companies are created in the US. India le 3-4 companies okke vannitundu. Everybody is, all the big VCs, let's say your Axel, your Lightspeed, your Elevation, ellarum bet eduttondirikana. So I'm chasing the consumer tech team, and I was like, okay, this is interesting, and theses, PeerCapital theses aside, and I was really passionate about hey, what is this? I wanted to unwrap. Even though there are 3-4 companies getting funded, I and I've spoken to all those founders also. I was like, I'm still going to look for that another, I have a prototype in mind that I want to look for. So did I fall for that FOMO? I think I picked that theme when it was happening in the Valley. I knew that someone will build for here, for the emerging markets. So do I fall for it? No. There is nothing in the email line that would that would make me jump out of my seat and fund this. But I don't know, yeah, share your perspective on FOMOs.
I think two things. On the FOMO, the other is I think like a cringe moment, right? I think FOMO for me would be if I get an email that says, because my background was in semiconductors and my first startup was in semiconductors, I think if I would come across a founder who says something about semiconductors and I have this feeling, oh shit, idu miss idale pani povum, right? I think that would be my FOMO moment. Idu vere nadannilla. The cringe one would be a founder reaching out that says, I'm going to make you X amount of money. That's like a big no-no. Right? It's a byproduct of the hustle and hard work that you put in. Right? Again, be obsessed with the problem, not about making money. Money will come. So I think that would be the FOMO and the cringe. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, in DeepTech at least, we don't look at FOMO. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but yeah, we don't, at least we're not driven by FOMO. I'm not driven by FOMO. A story of the founder, actually is a Malu founder. And this is very early in my career, right? And he reached out saying, we are building the SpaceX from India. And now I know when I hear so many space tech pitches, a space tech from India is very common. But he actually did that, Manu from EtherX, and Blue Hill has funded them. And yeah, I think they're doing a big round now. And superb story from Kerala, the guy. He wants to do SpaceX, he wants to do reusable rockets from India. So it's a great story. So yeah, that really caught my attention. I spent a lot of time with him. Couldn't build conviction internally, but that's okay. But maybe it's such audacious bets, right? You never know.
It goes with Jay's point around being insanely optimistic, right? So,
absolutely. ഞാൻ ചെറുതായിട്ട് ചോദ്യം മാറ്റാം. FOMO. Like he said, I don't think I have FOMO. I'm just insanely optimistic about every idea that comes to me the first time around. And then I build the negatives of it. I build the bear case. And sometimes I don't invest. The deals that I regret not doing are always where there's a problem, which I like, and a founder who's a perfect fit to that problem. Right? That's the deal that I always regret not doing. There have been a few which we did not do for certain reasons, right? The team was not full, or there was some red flag that we saw, but sometimes there's that perfect fit made for each other, problem and founder. If I don't get to do that deal, I regret it.
Got it.
yeah.
Okay, now that we are taking pot shots as VCs, how many of you heard about Paul Graham? I'm sure you all have, right? Y Combinator. He said VCs are like what? VCs are like? She's going to kill me. VCs are like high school girls because we are trend followers. So that's the whole FOMO story, right? So we try not to be that. Honestly, we've all read Paul Graham, so we try not to be that.
Awesome. So we only have 2 more minutes. So we'll quickly take questions. Yeah.
Hi, Sadiq here, founder of Guiding Mentor. We are addressing the mental challenges in the competitive exam space, currently focusing on NEET and JEE, being a faculty from past 9 years. Actually, one thing which I noticed is that the guys the level of thinking you guys have. I was clearly observing. In psychology, they say mirroring actually. I mean, the very thinking big at the same time, ground reality also meeting. Highest at the level, at the same lowest as well. I just want to ask you one thing. What do you think what are the main skill you consider to being a good VC? Yourself you are considered. Thank you.
Find the best founders. That's it.
Or one more accurately, നിങ്ങളുടെ വി സിയിൽ നിങ്ങൾ കാണുന്ന മെയിൻ സ്കിൽസ് ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, ഐ ക്യാൻ നോട്ടീസ് ഫ്യൂ തിങ്സ്. Then if you can share, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first, I think. all VCs are different, right? So VCs, best VC എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് LPs, അതായത് ലിമിറ്റഡ് പാർട്ട്നേഴ്സിന്. Let me define how VC works. How many of you know what a limited partner is? VC എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു റാൻഡം മണി ബാഗ് അല്ല. അതായത് ഒരാൾ വന്നു, ഓക്കെ ഞാൻ പെട്ടി തുറന്നു, എനിക്ക് പെട്ടിയിൽ മുഴുവൻ നോട്ടിൻ്റെ കെട്ടാണത്. Unfortunately, we are not that, right? So I wish I were that, but I'm not. A VC is a fund, just like a mutual fund. You've all invested in mutual funds, right? A mutual fund takes money from everybody and puts it into the market. And a VC is a firm like a mutual fund. We take money from a group of people who are called limited partners. Not everybody can be an LP. According to financial regulations, you have to have a certain network to be an LP. We take money from them. We invest in startups like yours, and we follow the power law. We expect 30% to be big hits, and those should return all our money, because not all startups work out. So the best VC is the person who can find these startups that are most likely to succeed, right? And that requires, like you rightly pointed out, some psychology, understanding the founder. You have to understand, is this person going to succeed? That is sometimes a gut feel, right? So I look for grit, I look for integrity, and I look for ability in the founder. So I think, in my opinion, the best VC is the person who can size up the right founders and therefore deliver the best return for their LPs. Fine.
There's nothing to top that.
A very binary equation, right? And it's a Boolean and. Network and capital and operator. I think if you have all three, you'll succeed as a VC. And it really has to be and. Yeah, that's what I think.
I have just like one minor thing to add. Like, and I think for me, a good VC is someone who's served his or her term, as in someone who has picked the right founder, someone who has nurtured that startup, and someone who's served the exit. Like, so if you're just investing and if you haven't seen through the exit cycles, then that that doesn't add to everyone's point that they made. Like, it's someone who gives back the money 3x, 4x back to the LPs. It's just simple.
Awesome.
I don't know
Let's
if you're
take one
looking
more
for
question.
personality traits of like, what would make a kind VC and all of that is what we're looking for. But would love to know, like, what was your psychographic assessment of panel success.
Let's take one more question.
I'm Zidan, co-founder of Zarka, your online dialer. So I have already met with some investors already. Not just, I have this doubt, not just for VCs, but in investors in general. Why are you this much obsessed with scale? I mean, most of us are first-time startup founders, and we haven't seen scale as much as you have seen. You have seen a lot of startups, and all the startup founders are startup founders not to scale something, but to solve some problem. We have found a problem, and we have a solution that people are ready to pay. So isn't scale figure outable on the way? I mean, isn't scale figure outable together with the investor? I mean, everyone other than this triple F needs scale. I mean, isn't this figure outable on the way? Why are you this much allergic towards scale not being figure outed?
Maybe I'll double click the earlier point on what does power law, right? And that may answer the question. So let's play this out, right? Let's say there's a $10 million fund, 10 startups, each getting $1 million each, right? We, as VCs, we put this money into 10 startups. Now, 3 of those startups do 2x. And therefore, you have, from those 3, we have $3 million. As a founder, you've done You're one of the three. You've done 3x. Do you think that's good?
I mean, if I can multiply it on the way, spending some time in the industry, maybe I can figure out something.
No, forget how. Your ability to do 3x, I give you $1 million, you give me $3 million back.
Okay.
Right? Is it good?
Compared to what?
As is. Just, I think so too. As a founder, I think it's fantastic. As a VC, it's not enough. Because the way money works, right? We give you $1 million, you'll raise, let's make up the math, right? It's a 10 million valuation, 10% dilution, 1 million, right? You raise another $1 million at a 20 million valuation, that's half of that. So you get a 30%, 33% dilution. And this game keeps getting played. Now you are one of 3 that is quote unquote successful. There are 5 out of that 10 who got 5 million from the 10 million who will fail. That's just a matter of statistics. And now you have 2 left. Those 2 better deliver a 30 to 50x return, because to Karthikeyan's earlier point, we have taken money from limited partners, right? They've given us 10 million, we've distributed it. For us to give over 10 years, for us to give a 5x return on the 10 million, you need to give 50 million back. So now let's come back to the 3 million story, right? The 1 million multiplied by 3 is not going to give us 50 million, right? Let's take it further. 5 of you, keep in mind that only 2 will succeed. The 2 of you who succeed give us 10 million, right? So you have 20 million back. Still doesn't cut the 5 million story. Now you keep playing this forward, you will realize that unless 1 or 2 or 3 tops give us a 10 to 20 to 30x return, we will never be able to give 50 million back to the people who gave us 10 million. That's the power law, and that explains scale. Right? Now the question is, do we know who those 2 are? And the answer is we don't, nor do you. And therefore scale is something we look across the table. So that's why scale becomes important. Now, is this discoverable on the way mutually together? Absolutely. But that's a bet we will not take on day 0. On day 0, we are not going to go in and say, hey, we'll do this together, right? Let's have fun. On day 0, we want to see an entrepreneur who thinks big, in the eventuality that that individual will give us a 20x return. And along the journey, if there are hurdles in the way, we will pivot. We will help you network, operate, etc. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, but angels also on scale.
Yeah, that's Karthikeyan's earlier point. You have to figure out who to take money from, right? The angels you take money from may necessarily not want you to build a business that is venture scalable, right?
Thanks for bringing up the math, because I think there is some math to your question. Let's say that, I give you 1 million, that's the investment. It's not my 1 million, right? Someone else has given me that 1 million. I gave it to you. You gave it back to me, let's say 10 million is what you give back to me. And I have to give back some money to, obviously the capital needs to give it back. For the sake of simplicity, let's say that I'm going to distribute that 10 million. And I make 10% of it. This is not the math. But let's say that, that 10 million, I pay 10% of it. How much do I get to keep? 1 million. But instead, if I gave you 1 million, and when scale comes, you make 100 million and then gives it back to me, how much do I get to keep in the 10 million story? In the 100 million story, I get to keep 10 million. So would I make 1 million versus would I make 10 million? It's just simple, and that's why, great point on angels, that's why they're called angels. They're there to, obviously work with you and then probably, help create, great opportunities. There is obviously alternate capital models which will create great impact and all of it, which might not have so much scale. But what are we ultimately doing? We are making money also. So there is definitely a money-making math to it. So simple question, why are we obsessed with scale? We also want to make money. Sort of be a capitalist, that in that way.
Yeah, quick book recommendation, right? I would recommend that everybody read this book called The Secrets of Sand Hill Road. Secrets of Sand Hill Road by a person called Scott Kapor. He was from Anderson Horowitz, which is probably the one we see worldwide that at least I look up to. Secrets of Sand Hill Road. That will tell you exactly how VC works, explain in detail all of the stuff that we're talking about. And that is the one book I read and decided not to take VC funding when I was doing my own startup.
All right, great. So I think, so we are probably 5 to 7 minutes past time. So it's time to close this session. Now, obviously, there has been some learning, some great information passed along. But more important than that, you need to understand that you have a bunch of people to reach out to. And even if they are not probably directly matching your thesis, I'm taking this liberty of saying you could still reach out to them so that they can probably introduce you to someone. In your funding journey, in your learning journey, in your startup journey. So, and obviously 2255 as a community, I wish it grows to much larger numbers and create. Pitch
Yeah,
email?
we should, yeah.
Absolutely, that's
Obviously,
that's
it's a
amazing.
great point.
So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could just
We'll put it out.
there, right?
Yep.
So, and I wish that grows into an amazing community and create a huge lot of impact. Thanks a lot once again, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Jofin.
KSU.